Hello, and welcome to the Bluffton BibleCast. I'm Sarah Fichter, and today I'm joined by Todd Dreher, Taylor Kirshner, and Darren Dreher. Listeners, thanks so much for joining us today, and we extend a warm welcome to anyone who hasn't listened in the past.
So as you probably know, the BibleCast is a short weekly podcast that follows and complements the church reading plan. The first year is under our belts and finished up this month.
And are you excited for what's coming next? Season 2 will start in the beginning of January.
Season 2? I barely started Season 1.
That's all right, Taylor. I guess you only missed the entire Torah. But the podcast starts over completely in 2023, and you and every other listener are welcome to jump right in and join us.
That's great to hear. It's perfect time for my New Year's resolution.
Yes, welcome aboard. This year, our reading plan will be all about Jesus. Passion Week, his miracles, parables, and sermons.
Goodbye, Torah.
Yes, this year's reading in the Gospel should be a little easier to follow than last year. So Taylor, if this year's reading plan is easier to follow, why should I take the time to listen to the BibleCast this season? Couldn't I just do it on my own?
Of course you could, but I really think you'd miss out on some neat scriptural connections, Sarah. In my group, we all had our own ways of approaching the text. I personally would always like to dive into a specific word or two in the scripture for the week and find context in other passages. Other people in my group were amazing at finding outside books or resources, or focusing on geography, or, again, discovering Old Testament connections and providing background historical information.
I do appreciate the research that goes into the podcast, don't get me wrong. But honestly, it's just another thing to add to my to-do list for the week.
I get it, Sarah. I really do. I mean, you're looking at a mom of an energetic 2-year-old. So while I don't have to deal with 4 boys like you do, when Laurel's finally down for a nap, the last thing on my mind is to sit down with a notebook and focus on listening to a podcast. But what I love about the BibleCast is its approachability. I can listen anytime, and it feels more like a casual conversation amongst friends than a sermon to take notes on. Most times I listen to it on my way to town, but I've been known to listen to it while mowing the yard or cleaning the mess I call my house or even prepping a meal. Typically, the podcasts are less than 13 minutes, so it's usually an easy listen.
Okay, that's a fair point, Taylor. I guess 10-ish minutes isn't a huge commitment.
Especially if it helps you get ready for another week with the reading plan. The podcast episodes come out on Sunday, so you can listen to it before you start your week of reading or hop on throughout the week whenever you catch a moment.
So I appreciate the BibleCast gives more context to the scripture, but I'm capable of picking up Haley's Bible handbook and reading it for myself. What does the BibleCast add to my devotions?
Well, Darren, I think you answered your own question.
I'm not picking up what you're throwing down.
Well, where did Haley's handbook come from?
A man named Haley.
Is everything he wrote perfect? Do you ever disagree with the book?
Well, yeah, sometimes I disagree, but I treat all Bible commentaries like a good spiritual conversation.
And what's the benefit of a spiritual conversation?
Well, Christianity has always been about community. When believers discuss the Bible, it not only increases our understanding of the scripture, it also helps us grow closer to each other.
That sounds a lot like the BibleCast.
Oh, okay, well played. I see what you mean.
Well, so I sort of see the BibleCast as an extension of our fellowship. Listeners get to be a part of a conversation between different members of our congregation. Our desire is to use it as a springboard to more conversation.
Okay, yeah, I guess it also gives listeners an opportunity to hear from people that they normally don't engage in conversation.
Exactly. When was the last time you discussed the miracles of Jesus with Laura Beeks or Andy Schmidt? The BibleCast lets you hear the hearts of fellow believers.
Okay, you got me on board. This is sounding pretty good. So how do these spiritual conversations work?
So the BibleCast members study a portion of Scripture, and then they converse with other members about what they learned.
Got it. So one member of the conversation is kind of like a wise sage that teaches the other member a valuable lesson. Kind of like what you just did to me.
I was wondering when you were going to catch on.
Listeners, you may be curious to know a little more about the Bluffton BibleCast team. First, we will tell you who we are not. We are not Bible scholars. We are not theologians, and we do not claim to be the authority on interpreting Scripture. We are also not professional podcasters.
Now we'll tell you who we are. We are your brothers and sisters who desire to dig into the Word, discuss it among each other, and share it with you, the church, in this form of media, podcasting. We have a lot of fun together.
Yeah, there are 25 podcasters total, and we're split into 4 teams. You'll hear the voices of men and women of various ages and from Bluffton Country and Bluffton North Apostolic Churches. In addition, each podcast team has a tech person who faithfully records, edits, and publishes the episodes.
So if you feel called to join the BibleCast team, whether a podcaster or a tech person, please don't hesitate to reach out to one of us.
So if you've never listened and you're wondering, where can I find the Bluffton Biblecast? It's pretty simple. Just search for Bluffton Biblecast in your podcast app if you're using a smartphone or tablet. And if you're using a computer, it can be found on the Bluffton Country and Bluffton North websites under the Bible Studies tab. It's also available on Spotify.
So don't worry. If you're not familiar with getting podcasts on your smartphone and you would like to try it out, it really isn't too hard. Just ask anyone in your life who uses a smartphone a lot, and they'll be able to help you.
I agree. It's pretty easy. Don't forget that when you click follow in your podcast app, each episode will automatically be delivered to you every week so you don't get behind.
Right, because the podcast does follow the 2023 Bible reading plan, which is linked at the bottom of every podcast episode.
And anyone can listen to this, right?
Of course, from the brand new believer to the mature Christ follower, we think anyone can get something out of it.
So we hope you join us this year as we adventure through the Gospels together and get to know our Jesus just a little more. See you in January.